How possibly can a few people control billions? One of the greatest weapons of mind control is suppressing the perception of the possible.
Is the biggest thing we should talk about is the whole digital AI agenda, what's going on at the moment?
We are looking at a mass human version of MK Ultra. The power they have is only the power we've given them. Those thoughts will not manifest in an AI-controlled mind. By 2030, it's already happening. Mm-hmm. The COVID fake vaccine is all part of it. Problem, reaction, solution. If we're still not challenging this effectively by the end of 2026, then we are going to be in some serious trouble. People can be as powerful as they choose to be, or as weak as they choose to be. It is just a choice. It's just a perception. We can change it anytime we want. It's just a choice.
David, so happy to see you again, man. It has been a couple of years ago. I mean, it's so funny when you think about it, like the first time we met. I still think it's super important to tell it, because I'm sure not everyone who will see this podcast today will know, but it was during COVID. We weren't able to fly anywhere. And then someone, I don't know how, on Twitter told us that he will fly us in a mini airplane to your place, to the Isle of Wight, and we flew and we recorded like a 4-hour podcast or something. It was the first time.
Yeah, I didn't envy you the small plane on a windy day, mind.
Mate, it was such a surreal thing. Yeah, we tried to land like 3 different times, and then finally we did it because it was so stormy. And then you were standing at the end of the runway with this big umbrella. I was like, Jesus, man, like my life has turned into kind of like a movie scenario.
Yeah, worth doing though. Worth doing. If you went onto that airport, as you find out, basically anyone can land there, and very few, unless it's the weekend, very few people that even know you've arrived and gone back.
David, so thank you for being here today, man. My team was discussing like what should we do for the end of the year, and I don't know if it's for you the same, but for me, like this year somehow went really fast, and so much happened in a short period of time. Somehow it feels for me this year is like the fastest from the Corona years on. Do you experience it the same?
Yeah, I do. I've been feeling the passage of time quickening for a long time, but this year it's really just flown, as they say. And interestingly, when I first had my head blown off, awakening in 1990, I came across a psychic lady who said, I'm being told to tell you that time eventually is going to seem to pass so fast it will be frightening. And I've always kind of retained that and remembered that. And I certainly, it's come to mind in recent years, and certainly in the last year. And of course, there is no time. It doesn't exist. Time is an illusion based on our own perceptions. So, for instance, Einstein talked about the fact that if you are doing something you like, time seems to pass very quickly. And if you're doing something you don't like, then time seems to pass slowly. In other words, time, as we perceive it, is in the gift of the observer, really. And if you think about time, which is an extraordinarily powerful control mechanism, I mean, it dictates life here. Is that the time? Oh my God, time passes so fast. Oh my God, I've got to get here. I've got to get there on time. And yet, if you break it down there is only a now. There's only this moment.
Hmm.
And that's very difficult for people to get their heads around because time is such a dominant perceptual factor in this reality. But if you do sort of look at it logically, where were we when we experienced what we now perceive as the past, as a memory? We were in the now. We're in that if you like, present moment when we experience what is now our perception of the past. Where will we be when we experience what we currently call the future? We'll be in the now. There's only the now. But as I've been writing about since just after the turn of the millennium, what I'm suggesting is that with considerable evidence now, including mainstream scientists are starting to see it, we live in a fake reality, a reality that has been systematically constructed like a simulation, a matrix, whatever you like, to hijack human perception and thus human behavior. So, people think the conspiracy to enslave humanity is happening at a political level, and all the focus is on Trump or Harris or Biden or Obama, or Rutter or Geert Wilders, both of which are responsible for me being banned from 30 European countries now for nearly 3 years, past 3 years.
Which is insane, David. Insane.
Just insane. But actually, both of those two, of course, have the word freedom in their party names, which is kind of bizarre. But anyway, the political level is what people focus on, and it's what most of the alternative media focuses on. But it's just a way that the conspiracy plays out. It plays out at that level, but it's not coming from that level or anything like it. It's actually coming from another dimension of reality. And it's coming from that which created this human perceptual prison you could call the simulation or the matrix. And part of that perceptual prison is the illusion of time, the illusion of time passing. And so you can manipulate that perception so it appears to be getting faster and faster and faster. And that's what I think people are experiencing. So there's some different levels of it. It's like you experience time by your perceptual state in the moment. Mm-hmm. Sitting in a dentist waiting room, time passes and slowly, and as Einstein said, if you're in the company of a beautiful woman, then time passes very fast. It's in the perception of the observer. But I do think that manipulating this simulation, and that's what I think is the real reason that people now, and it's not just you and me, I keep my eyes open and I keep my ears open. And more people, especially this year, have said, what's happened to time? Mm-hmm. So I do think there's something like that going on.
Is that like, ladies and gentlemen, feeling a bit sluggish during the winter? Short days, less sunlight, it really takes a toll, doesn't it? You could move to a warmer climate like I did, but there might be an easier way. That's why I love to tell you more about Amara Pure's amazing red light lamps. Just a few minutes under the lamp and you can experience what it's like to give yourself a moment of extra care. But it's not just for comfort. Research shows that red light can support your skin and energy levels, and I can tell you it simply feels great for relaxation or recovery. Perfect after work or a workout, or just to recharge during the dark days. Want to experience it yourself? Use code TMS for 10% off at amarapure.com. Truly a must-have this winter. Do you think the reason, or one of the reasons that we get fired so many different things at us, like events and in such a fast pace, that also is a way to get us away from the perception of the now, or living in the now, and get us in the feeling of time moving so fast, because the illusion of having so many things happening at the moment, and they show it at us in such a high speed, is taking part of that as well.
Yeah, well, my contention for all these decades really has been that the foundation of human control is disconnecting us from our expanded levels of consciousness, ultimately a state of infinite awareness. And so the more they can hijack your attention, your focus, the more you are disconnected from that expanded state of awareness. For instance, if I put my finger in front of my nose and I absolutely focus on it, the rest of the room has just disappeared. Oh, it's back again now, but not now. And focus of attention and hijacking that, which becomes then perception of reality, is fundamental to all this. So they want you to believe that you are a human. We are not human. We are consciousness having a brief experience as a human, which is a very different thing. And so we're basically given a choice, in mainstream anyway, of believing that we are a cosmic accident, that we've come out of nowhere and will disappear into nowhere when the body ceases to function, or that we are subjected to the judgment of some judgmental God who loves us so much that he will judge us on one life to decide if we go to heaven or hell. And no matter what our life experience and where we were born and how we were born, what happened to us, I mean, the whole thing's bloody ludicrous. But they're basically the two choices. But there is a third, and that's that we are consciousness. We are what I call spirit. We are a state of formless awareness. We are a state of being aware, ultimately. And we take on these energetic outer shells, vehicles, to experience the realities that we want to experience, or we are manipulated to experience in this case. Mm-hmm. So if my consciousness wanted to pick that up, it couldn't, because my consciousness, your consciousness, all consciousness at that level is vibrating so fast that it can't interact with this dense material realm, which is just a band of frequency. That's all it is. And if I want to pick up that cup, then I have to have an outer shell, we call a body, that is in the same frequency band as what I want to interact with, mm-hmm. and then I can pick it up. But the trick has been, the manipulation has been to persuade us that the vehicle is who we are. And if you stop people and say, who are you? They will almost invariably give you the labels of their human life. They give you their birthplace, their location, their religion, their race, their job. And all they're doing is describing the labels of a brief experience in this tiny reality we call human. And if you ask people who are into religion, mm-hmm. they'd say that if I obey God, I have a soul, and my soul will go to heaven, or my soul will go to hell. But there is another choice, and that's that we are consciousness having a brief human experience. And the self-identity that will get us out of this trap, this prison of the mind, is to self-identify with the true I, consciousness, and not the phantom self I, which is the brief experience we're having in this reality.
So David, let's stop at, or let's zoom in on religion, actually, because when we look back at 2025, maybe it started even a little bit earlier as well. You see, I'm not even sure if it's only Christianity, but you see, especially in the West, people fall back into like this religion kind of patterns again. And I think in the Netherlands you see more of the Christianity. I think in the USA probably as well. Maybe in some other countries it's the Muslims. I'm not really sure, but I think you can see that there is kind of a trend of people going back into like religious kind of belief systems. Do you see that the same?
Oh, yeah. But again, if you break it down, okay, we're told there's 8 billion people in the world. And of the 8 billion, an estimated 5.4 billion are self-identifying either as Christian or Muslim or Hindu, never mind all the others. And if you then look at the fact that throughout human history, the few have always controlled the many, which is a constant common theme of the entirety of known human history, then you have to ask the question, how has it been done? How possibly can a few people control billions currently? Should be impossible, mathematically impossible. But it isn't. Why? Because if you are the few and you are facing a large, now massive target population, which you wish to control, there's two things you have to do, and they're both absolutely connected. One is you have to break up the unity of perception, the unity of people, into belief systems, rigid, unquestioning belief systems, which repel all borders. So the first thing you've got, and this is common to Christianity, is common to Muslims, it's common to Hindu, it's common to all of these things when they are unquestioning and rigid. You put the walls up. So now you have created a perceptual prison of belief, and you will not go beyond the walls of that belief. Otherwise, you are no longer what you call yourself. And we have this this desire of so many people to be part of a group, to be part of a belief system. It's almost like a sense of security that it gives them. I've never had that, be honest. I've never wanted to be part of a group. But I just want to know what's going on. But these walls are immediately denying you all that infinity of exploration, of possibility, of potential, of insight, of knowledge, of awareness. Because you've bought a story overwhelmingly from thousands of years ago, and even in coming up into 2026, it still dominates your life because you believe the story. And what I've done in the roadmap is to, in part of it, is to look at some of these stories and the evidence for them. And in terms of the Old Testament, I've quoted Jewish archaeologists who have no benefit. They have nothing that you would want for coming out and saying, actually, if you look at the story of Exodus and Moses and all that stuff, and Joshua and all these different stories, there is no evidence for them. There's no archaeological evidence, and for the Exodus, there should be massive archaeological evidence. There should be massive chronicled records in Egypt alone, never mind in other places. But it's not there. It's not mentioned. None of it's mentioned. So then you look at Christianity, as I do in the book, and you see that Christianity was written, in terms of the Gospels, was written as an apparent outgrowth of the Old Testament. So they have written in the Old Testament prophecies of the coming Messiah or whatever, and this in the New Testament is written as if, oh yeah, it was Jesus, basically. And again, you say to people who follow Judaism, who follow Christianity, who wrote the Bible? Who wrote it? And what was their motivation? What was the political situation and theological situation of the time? What was the cultural situation of the time? What benefit was there for the people that wrote it? And of course, the answers that come back are silence. And then you go on to Islam. And most people don't realize this, but the Quran and Islam, supposed to have been pioneered by Muhammad, who died in 632 AD, as I recall, and that accepts the existence of Moses, of many Old Testament prophets, of Jesus, but they say he wasn't the last prophet. It was Muhammad, and Mother Mary, and all these characters, and Abraham, massive, basically hero figure of Islam. That's why they call them, the three of them, the Abrahamic religions. And so they're all kind of based on the same thing. And if you go back to that origin, you find there's no evidence for it at all. But, you know, it's like you just keep repeating the same story. So here's a good example of that. I remember in 1993, I went to Israel. I was only there 3 days, and they wouldn't let me in now, but I went just to see it. And I remember standing by that big mosque and with, you know, the big dome on what Christians and Jews call Temple Mount. And there were some Muslim kids playing football. And for background, the old city of Jerusalem, which is within the city wall, is very small. You've got the big conurbation now of Jerusalem going out from it, but that central part is very small. But it's still broken up into quarters. There's an Armenian quarter, a Christian quarter, a Muslim quarter, and a Jewish quarter. And I was watching these Muslim kids playing football, and it occurred to me as I watched them that at that age, they were quite small, they would have a certain view of God, religion, Jewish people, and life in general, a perception of how they see things. But had they, in the Old Testament, or the Old City of Jerusalem, rather, version of what I'm saying, if they'd have been born literally down the street in the Christian quarter or the Jewish quarter, at the same age, they would now have a very different view of God, life, themselves, reality, all of it. And so if you look at those three religions, those 5.4 billion, those religions, Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism, where do most Hindus, Muslims, and Christians come from? They come from those parts of the world where those religions are dominant, and or they come from families that believe in those religions but live in other countries. So, with all the people from the Indian subcontinent in Britain, for instance, a lot of people are brought up as Hindus in Hindu families. So it's not just in a particular part of the world, it can be other parts of the world, as long as your family brings you up in that religion. So that tells you something. It tells you that people have not stopped, looked at all the possibilities, done their own research, and come to a unique individual conclusion. They've come to their religious belief because that's all they've basically ever heard. They've been brought up and indoctrinated from birth into that religion. Mm-hmm. And there's also the fear factor in many religions, the fear even of physical violence, but certainly fear of psychological pressure from the parents who believe in that religion for their kids to take on the same belief. I mean, you've got to marry this person who we decide you're going to marry. What? I've never met him. Doesn't matter. This is our religion. Well, does it have to be mine? Yes, it does. And so you only have to look at that to see that people aren't coming to their own conclusions. What I came across in the long period from 1996 afterwards, when I was looking at mind control, mm-hmm. is how they and things like MK Ultra, etc., is that they were mind controlling people, are mind controlling people, to mind control others. And what is the imposition of religious belief across the generations, other than the mind controlled believing rigidly and unquestionably a certain story, insisting that the next generation does the same? Mm-hmm. And what you have, therefore, is all these people, they have a wall holding their belief in, and they won't go beyond it, often because they know that if they do, they're outside of their religion, blasphemer, or because I can't go there, or if I do, I've got to keep quiet about it, because what will my parents say? Mm-hmm. So there's your prisons of the mind. Now, once you've indoctrinated through the generations different religious belief systems, then you can play them off against each other to divide and rule. And if you go deeply into it, there's often not a lot of difference between them, but there appears to be. They're told there is. And therefore, my version of God is better than yours. It's the real one. Yours is a fake version of God and all that stuff. And people must believe whatever they wish to believe. My problem is when they seek to impose what they believe on other people, mm-hmm. including children. So you've got this divide and rule through what my father used to call bricks and mortar religion, the mosques and the synagogues and the churches and the cathedrals and the temples. But what I've described here is not confined just to bricks and mortar religion. It's a mentality, it's a state of mind. And therefore, it makes me smile when I see scientists. The famous one for this is a guy called Professor Richard Dawkins at Oxford University, or he was there anyway, who is an avid opponent of religion, and yet he's a high priest in his own Scientism. Because orthodox science is a religion, and it has all the tools of a religion. The holy books are the books of scientific orthodoxy. And if you go beyond scientific orthodoxy, you're no longer a real scientist, you are a pseudoscientist. Even though what you're exploring, what orthodoxy calls the paranormal, because it's not really normal, we know what normal is. Well, you don't. So it's the same mentality. Scientism is just another religion. Mm-hmm. And just as you have walls of the bricks and mortar religious belief, denying you exploration of infinity, so the walls of orthodox science belief act in exactly the same way. This is why, if you look through science history, you'll find that the people that really moved people forward, humanity forward in their understanding of things, they were at first ridiculed, condemned, abused by their own profession because of that. And then when the evidence for what they're saying becomes overwhelming, well, those walls go out a bit, but then stop again. And so you've got these rigid belief systems. Human-caused climate change is another religion. You've got the orthodoxy, which is connected to mainstream orthodox science, follow the science, same as Big Pharma, same connection, same dynamic. And if you go outside of the orthodoxy of human-caused climate change, if you say, well, maybe these people that are questioning human-caused climate change, maybe they might have a point here and there. Oh, blasphemer! And so this religion mentality is everywhere, and you see it in politics of left and right. Mm-hmm. You know, they're saying they're rigid on questioning belief systems, and they will not encompass, overwhelmingly, anything that the other side says as possibly having a validity. And you've got another divide and rule. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. And if people just stopped and said, okay, I'm going to start again here. I'm going to put aside what I've believed up to this point, and I'm going to see if it stands up to questioning, if it stands up to open-minded research. And you'll find that it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is because of the situation that humanity is in. People think that when they're looking through their eyes into a room or anywhere else, they're seeing everything that exists in the space they're looking at. They're not. They're looking and seeing a tiny band of frequency called visible light, and it's so tiny it's hysterical. According to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum, which is pretty much our experienced reality, is as little as 0.005% of what exists in the form of energy in all its facets in the universe. And visible light is a smear of the 0.005%. Humans are basically blind. And as I point out in the roadmap, there's a reason for that. And therefore, we should always know the basics of any research, which is whatever I know or think I know, there's always more to know. Always more to know. How can we have, quote, got it in the situation I've just described.
Mm.
But
There could also be a possibility that you're
when
wrong.
you are in a situation that you open your mind, or you start to explore on the basis of whatever I know, there's always more to know. If you are of or within one of these belief systems, religious, scientific, whatever, you hit the walls. And so the question then is, do I go beyond it and take the wrath of this lot? Or do I suppress my exploration and stay in the fold? And you know, that's what is going on all the time.
I'd love to share something about modern native because they've taken the wisdom of our ancestors and given a modern twist. After all, why were our ancestors healthier than we are, even without the use of synthetic vitamins? The main reason is actually very simple. Their diet was rich in organ meats. It's a powerful source of essential nutrients. And our modern day diet lacks these crucial nutrients, which is why so many people feel tired, experience chronic stress, and get sick more easily. That's why modern native has captured the power of organ meats and natural organ supplements that your body recognizes and absorbs effectively. The result: more energy, a stronger immune system, healthier hair, and even a boost in your libido. So, are you curious about how Modern Native's natural organ supplements can help you? Visit modernnative.nl/organ mix for more information and use code TMS for 10% off your first purchase. So, but do you think that like all the different religions are manufactured to serve the purpose of mind control?
Oh, for sure. Not necessarily every last one. Some can, come out of originally seeking to understand the world. But what it does, what tends to happen, because I've been saying now for the last, 30 odd years, if you can give me a name for what you believe, you're in a prison. Because once you give your beliefs a name, or how you see the world a name, the walls go up and you have rules and regulations appear, and what constitutes that name and what doesn't. No need to give anything a name, it just is. And so you can have like Buddhism, which is exploring beyond the walls of Christianity and Islam and the rest, but it still has levels of it that are solidified into a belief system. And from what I've just been talking about, you must always know there's always more to know. So if you stop and you say, I've got it now, this is how it is, well, you're just confirming you haven't. Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing wrong, and I'm the same. There's nothing wrong with saying, well, actually, at this point, this is how I see it. From the evidence that I've seen and all the research that I've done, this is how I see it. But even at that point, you always know there's always more to know. And what that does is drive you down the rabbit hole. You are constantly asking the question, okay, so what don't I know? And that you're driving down the rabbit hole. Now, that comes or brings in another societal block, potentially. And that's because when you are constantly asking the question, what don't I know? You are constantly exploring deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole in pursuit of what I don't know. Suddenly you find yourself coming across information and experience and awareness that takes you way beyond the perceived normal that humans believe in, because they've been doctrinated to believe in it and go no further. one of the greatest weapons of mind control is suppressing the perception of the possible. Because if you can suppress the perception of the possible, when people like me come along and say, actually, from what I've uncovered, this is what's happening, and this is how they're doing it to you. If it's way beyond the indoctrinated sense of the possible, then there's immediate waving of the hands. Don't be crazy. That's impossible. It's not possible. It can't be doing that. No. There was a great quote by this guy called Schopenhauer, who basically said words to the effect of, don't confuse the limits of your own mind with the limits of possibility. But that is constantly done. So all the way through decade after decade, I've been ridiculed and laughed at and condemned and abused for talking about a non-human element to human control. Mm-hmm. It's less now because people are starting to go, oh, hold on a minute, that might make a bit more sense now. But for so long, and still now among people welded to the indoctrinated sense of normal, there's been massive levels of ridicule. So if you are going to explore deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, you have got to know that is coming your way. If you fear what other people think and other people say about you, which is the prison that most people live in, then when you hit those levels of the rabbit hole where it's starting to go real far out from the normal point of view, you stop. Well, I can't talk about this. What will people think of me? I don't care less. I couldn't care less. I've never cared less. But if you don't have that attitude, that's another block on open-minded exploration. So you can see all over society are these walls put in, psychological walls, belief walls, that are specifically designed to stop you open-mindedly exploring the infinity of possibility. And it's done for a reason. It's to keep us in the trap. It's because this whole matrix simulation, it's a perceptual trap. It's designed to control our perception of reality. Our perception of reality dictates our behavior, and it dictates the entirety of our lives. How we perceive things to be is how we live our lives, and suppressing that is crucial to mass human control, and that's what's happening. And just very quickly, I'm sure we'll get into this later. The reason they want to, not many years from now, in fact, it's happening already, to fuse humans and the human brain with artificial intelligence is so artificial intelligence becomes human perception and emotional response rather than the, quote, individual expressing their own thoughts and their own emotional responses. That's what it's for. Up to this point, they have manipulated perception by controlling information. This is what censorship's all about. They don't censor for a laugh. They censor because if they can stop people hearing information that would give them a different view of reality and life to the one the authorities want them to believe in, then if you can stop those other sources of possibility, you are overwhelmingly going to implant a sense of reality in people on the basis of that's all they've ever heard. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the situation we're facing, we have two worlds in one world. we have the world of what I call the global cult, which is a global network of secret societies with an interlocking inner circle leadership that's driving the direction of human society, so as I explain in the books and the roadmap.
Were they the ones inventing the whole religion game?
Yeah, exactly. So they, well, you go another level into the outside of this dimension, into the what's called in esoteric circles the astral dimension, which interpenetrates this one. That's where it's coming from, and that's where these religious beliefs will be originating ultimately. So what you have is this astral dimension, which is also part of this matrix simulation structure. And within human society, within our frequency band we call human, you have this global cult that is serving the interests of that astral force. So what they're doing is they're passing on to the inner circle, you know, not Bill and Joe down the local Freemasons lodge, but it's the structure of secret societies is all compartmentalized. They call it degrees. And what degrees of what? Degrees of knowledge. So the vast majority of Freemasons never get higher than the bottom 3 levels of degree, the so-called blue degrees. And there's 33 levels of the Scottish rite of Freemasonry. And then you go into higher levels even beyond that of this global cult. And what they're doing to the inner circle is passing on through the generations advanced knowledge of, first of all, the agenda, yes, for humanity, which is greater and greater dystopia until AI completely controls human thinking, perception, but also they're passing on the nature of reality itself. Now, that's the knowledge that I've spent now coming into 36 years uncovering and communicating to the target population. Of course, they don't want that. So what they've done, this cult, the inner circle of this cult, the billionaires, if you like, of this cult, millionaires as it were, they have also created the systems of communication, of information that the target population receive. So they created the education system. Look to America, created by J.D. Rockefeller, the oil tycoon and others. And the idea of education is to indoctrinate. It's to take people, kids, from the earliest age, like 4 or 5, and take them through the education system, through schools and colleges and universities, and indoctrinate them with a certain version of reality, a very limited version of reality. At the same time, this cult has created and owns the global media, which is now owned by a tiny number of corporations in terms of its major elements. And so you go through the education system and you get indoctrinated. At the same time, the media is telling you basically the same as the teachers are telling you and the professors. And, you know, then you go out into the world at the end of your school, university time, and the media is constantly confirming what you've been told about reality. All the people you're working with, or the vast majority of people you're working with, have been through the same system you've been through. They listen to the same media you listen to. And so they've come to the same conclusions that you have through the indoctrination of sense of reality. And now everyone's confirming to everyone else that this sense of reality must be true, because everyone knows that, mate. Everyone says the same. And you go through from womb to tomb, In the same way, Silicon Valley now has come in to be another indoctrinator and divider. And is it any mystery then why so many people around the world go through their lives believing basically the same sense of reality, with religious exceptions? It's because it's indoctrinated. And if you look at the Hindu indoctrination, it's indoctrination. It's telling you to believe in a certain story with limitations. You look at the Western domination of Christianity, same. You look at the Islamic indoctrination, same. And so we are looking at a mass human version of MK Ultra, the infamous American-Canadian mind control program, where people's perceptions are being downloaded to dictate their lives and to create divide and rule. And this is why we need to stop, get a blank sheet of paper, and say anything that goes on that paper, symbolically or literally, has got to earn its place now. I'm not just repeating on that paper what I've been told all my life. I'm going to check it out. And I can tell you when you do, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
Isn't it ironic, though, David, that circling back to religion and that's a trend that I've been seeing like at least a year or so, that people who have woken up during the COVID period have listened to podcasts where you're coming in, or like loads of different other people, and they started to see that this reality is fake, is there's a cult, etc., etc. But then after a certain amount of time, let's say a year ago or something, there were people who were starting to see all of this, but then still moved in a religious, well, let's say Christianity. For me, it's so ironic that how is that possible when you started to wake up and you see the whole idea, the whole cult, the whole mind control even, and then you are falling for religion.
Well, I've always symbolized the story of human awareness as driving down the freeway, and what you know, because there's always more to know, is that the freeway of knowledge never ends. But all along the freeway are exit points, and they're all trying to get you to go down one of the exit points. And that exit point leads to a cul-de-sac that goes round and round and round. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to do. And what you described there is absolutely right. I become very aware of it myself from its earliest stages. It was obvious that something was brewing. And when we had that period of COVID, when basically tyranny was put in your face, mm-hmm. and for anyone with a brain cell on active duty, it was obvious it was globally coordinated. When you've got vast tracts of the world who responded to, quote, COVID, another bloody hoax, in the same way. Well, why are they all reacting in the same way? Because it's centrally coordinated, globally coordinated. That's why. And people started, not least in England, really, they started to become aware that indeed there was a conspiracy and that there was some kind of global element to it. So when people started in England to protest against the COVID restrictions, the numbers were very small, and the police came in and sorted it out very quickly. In the end, we were walking through London with 100,000 or more people, and the police were standing on the side of the road watching us go past because there's just too many people. They can't cope. That's what happens when unity replaces division, and we come together with a united aim, a united goal, rather than fighting among ourselves. Because in that 100,000 plus people would have been endless numbers who wouldn't have agreed on many things, but they agreed on this. So if I'm the global cult, I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, this is getting a little bit out of hand, because if we allow this to go on, then they might start to expand their awareness of what's happening to the point where we start to get in trouble, because they start to realize what the game is and how it's played. So what they did was they brought in a lot of people from the mainstream into the alternative media, and they gave them massive algorithmic and funding support. Because what they would have done is they'd say, okay, who are these people, these pushbacking rebels? Where do they get their information from? Well, it's not the mainstream media. They have contempt for that. So there's no way we can get them back in the fold and limit them, stop them going there through the mainstream media. It's not going to happen. Who do they listen to? They listen to this emerging alternative media. All right, well, we have to take that over then. And we have to get people in there who basically either, and this is the few, know exactly why they're there and what they're meant to do. And this is the larger number, people who have a certain limited mentality, a certain limited understanding of how the world works, that are focused overwhelmingly on politics, and we need to put them in as the new stars of the alternative media. And I saw this happening. I remember contacting Alex Jones through his producer in the early stages of this. And I said, does Alex understand that this takeover is happening, this hijack is happening? And what came back through the producer was, yeah, Alex says, yeah, but he doesn't know what to do about it. So I said, okay, get on the phone and let's talk about what we can do. Mm-hmm. The next thing I know is Alex Jones is interviewing people I actually mentioned who were coming in to take it over. And he has since long now become, an absolute central figure in the takeover, a guy who is now justifying, because Trump's doing it, everything he once railed against. It's extraordinary to watch. And so this is what has happened. Now, the religion element is fundamental to that. And, you know, as I've said in the roadmap, we've had people who weren't Christian who have converted to Christianity, people like Russell Brand and so on. Mm-hmm. And we've had others who were Christian who've now converted to Roman Catholicism, which is an extreme version. But I mean, Vlandingerbroek is the Dutch activist is one who's done that. Candace Owens is another. But when I look at it, I think, hold on a minute. You're saying that we must have freedom, yeah? Okay, oh yeah, we must have freedom of speech. Yeah, yeah. We must have freedom of opinion and belief. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But you've just converted to the Roman Catholic Church, whose whole history has been based on destroying all of those things through the Inquisition, through taking over great chunks of the world, through imposition of belief upon the population that believed something else before.
Mhm.
What are you doing? I mean, it's like cognitive dissonance on a level that beggars belief. I believe in freedom, but I'm converting to the church that has an entire history of destroying it.
Mm.
It's unbelievable, and it's a cul-de-sac. It's an exit point off the freeway and into the cul-de-sac, round and round and round, because suddenly you're now filtering your perception of the conspiracy through your religious belief. So there's areas of the conspiracy you won't go because your belief is in trouble if you do.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this phrase in Britain, it's a dog's breakfast, you know, it's all thrown in. And it is a dog's breakfast, really. It's an extraordinary kind of mental gymnastics that people have to go through to justify their actions given the background. And again, you're looking at limitation. And so what you have to have when your foundation outcome, the one you want more than anything else, is to connect the human brain body to artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence becomes human perception. That's what you want more than anything else. You also want to build, in conjunction with that, a digital dystopia based on a digital ID and a digital currency, which allows total control of your finances, total control and tracking of your finances. And you want to bring this in, according to people like Ray Kurzweil, the Google futurist executive, by 2030. It's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
The COVID fake vaccine is all part of it, as we might get into. But so that's your goal. So while you're doing that, while you're Elon Musk's and your Larry Ellisons and your Mark Andreessens and your Peter Thiels and your Alex Karps and your David Sacks, who is the AI crypto czar of the of Trump. So AI crypto, AI digital currency, and it mixed in one. And this AI mafia of billionaires has circled its wagons around the Trump administration, who's just a puppet. I mean, you know, the idea that Trump is smart is hilarious. The idea that Elon Musk is smart is hilarious. Just look at the background. So you want to hide that, or you want to justify it as best you can. Oh, it will be great, says Elon. Oh, yes, people will have a high universal income. They won't have to work. Oh, yeah, of course they will. You mean you're going to take all the jobs away? That's what you mean. So that's what they want. What you need to do while you're doing that is take attention away. And in Trump, they have the perfect attention hijacker. Every day he says something outrageous. He does something ridiculous. He says something unsupportable by the evidence. And every day there's a reaction against it, and another reaction for it from what's left of his MAGA base. And then you have, within the alternative media, you have focuses of attention being hijacked. So at the moment, we've had now for weeks and weeks and weeks, while all this AI has been going on and this digital stuff's been going on.
Dear friends, there's a real stigma around money. In the Netherlands, it's almost taboo to talk about it, let alone earn it. But if you want independence in today's world, building wealth is essential, and it doesn't have to be complicated. That's why I'm such a fan of Mace and the system he built to help everyday people grow wealth the right way. We've all heard it, politicians like Nancy Pelosi using insider knowledge to make huge profits in the stock market. Somehow that's legal, while regular investors are left behind. The game feels rigged, but Mace found a way to level the playing field. With The Wolf of Washington, you follow the real traits of powerful politicians, their timing, strategies, so you're no longer guessing. No hours of research, just clear signals and real insights. I'm done letting my savings sit in the bank. Want insider-level insights too? Go to wolfofwashington.nl/Trueman and use code TMS for a 10% discount.
You've had Candace Owens getting massive audiences for, she says, investigating the murder of Charlie Kirk. And you've had the divisions between her and other members of the so-called alternative media, mainstream, meetings with Icke Kirk and upsets and what have you with the
Macron,
the organization Turning Point USA.
Oh yeah.
And the attention of even the alternative media has been on that week after week after week. Then you've had Candace Owens going on about the fact that Emmanuel Macron's wife is a man or was born a man or whatever. And over here, the AI digital control agenda, control on a level never even close to being seen in known human history, goes on at pace, being imposed. And it's the same in every country. You've got this diversion mentality. Mm. We don't want them looking at that, so we'll get them to look at that. And a lot of the people, Candace Owens quite possibly, have no idea that's what they're doing, but they're just doing it without going, hold on a second. Who killed Charlie Kirk is kind of important in and of itself, okay, but this mass human control system by artificial intelligence and the digital system.
By the people you voted into power, by the way.
Exactly. And this is the other point. You bring up a very good point. If you look at these people that came out of the mainstream into the mainstream of the alternative media, kind of came out of nowhere, they were all Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. They all pushed for Trump to get elected. And then you had this, I mean, Elon Musk, if people look back at my books over the years, I've had him in my sights for such a long time. The man is obviously a cooperative, obviously a con man, goes with the territory. And what did he do suddenly? While all these alternative people who were coming out of the mainstream and suddenly, oh yeah, we're here now, we're taking over. They all support Trump, your Carlsons and your Candace Owens and all these people, Russell Brand. And who then came on the scene? crucially to support Trump? Elon Musk. The most obvious, blatant move you could predict. Put in about $250 million, $300 million to help him over the line. And they apparently fell out, but it was obviously going to be temporary, and now they're bosom buddies again. And it's all a orchestrated theater. And while people think politically about the left and the right, they gotcha. Because this cult works through the left and the right and the center. And these different apparent ideologies go in the same direction whenever they get into power. They might go in slightly different speeds. They'll use different excuses and different rhetoric, but it's the same. Great example. In America, Donald Trump is using the left as the excuse to impose tyranny, censorship, and putting troops on the streets. In Britain, you've got Keir Starmer, who's using the right to impose censorship and tyranny, not least through jailing people for tweets on a ridiculously large scale. So
like 15,000 or so, right? In the UK.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And they're seeking to intimidate people into keeping their opinions to themselves. And that's not freedom of speech. It's the same with Elon Musk and X. You see, I've been researching Elon Musk for so long that when he purchased Twitter, now X, with, by the way, people like Saudi Arabia and Qatar are all in there, plus these billionaires of Silicon Valley. People think, oh, yeah, Elon Musk bought Twitter. Well, no, he only bought a bit of it. The rest was purchased by these free speech absolutists from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And so once I saw that, I thought, this is a scam. So let's have a look at this. What's the scam? And we're back to what I talked about a few minutes ago. If you remember, Elon Musk positioned himself, because this cult does not make it up as it goes along. It plays the long game. He positioned himself as the AI skeptic. He said AI could be the end of humanity. Well, that's the idea, mate, as you well know, in terms of the humanity we've known. And so he's the AI skeptic. At the same time, you had your Bill Gateses and your Klaus Schwabs at the World Economic Forum, and your Kurzweils and all these other people who were saying fusing AI with humans is going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. We'll be gods. And so you had the soft sell. I'm very worried of Elon Musk, and you had the hard sell of these other people. But the outcome in both cases is AI human fusion. And what Musk did at a pivotal point, he came out and said, well, I'm very worried about AI. Could be the end of humanity. I mean, you believe me, don't you? No, but go on. Well, trouble is, AI becoming more intelligent than humans is inevitable. Oh, really? Pray do go on. If we don't fuse with AI, humanity will die out. So we've got to. So here you've got the hard sell, oh, we'll be gods, it'll be great. And the soft sell, well, it's inevitable. And the outcome is exactly the same. And if you look at it, at X, the X platform now, it's become the Musk propaganda arm of selling AI and all the agenda to the former pushbackers who were skeptical of the whole AI agenda before. And that's another interesting point that happened. You had people in the alternative media, me among them, by the way, pointing out that Musk was a transhumanist. He wanted this AI human fusion.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, oh, no, Elon Musk is not your friend. He wants this transhuman agenda. Then he buys Twitter with others. And he allows people back on. Oh, no, Elon Musk, he's a free speech absolutist. He's one of us. And suddenly, present company accepted, by the way, the alternative media stopped calling him out for the AI agenda, of which he is a leading proponent, and let him get away with so much that they wouldn't otherwise. And so now you're seeing the censorship part of it with Musk and X announcing for instigation in January a new set of regulations for X, which allows basically complete control and usage of the data that's posted on X, that allows them to be able to throw you off without having to explain why. That says, well, you can take us to court if you like, but you can't take us to court as a class action. You have to take us to court individually. And by the way, the only court you can take us to is in Texas, where we're based, or where Musk is based. And also saying that censorship will be instigated on the basis of laws relating to the European Union and Britain and so on. And so when Musk first bought Twitter, he appointed this World Economic Forum stalwart called Linda Yaccarino. And she, as they say, gave the quiet part out loud when she said that X is about freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. In other words, you can post, but if we don't agree with it, we will make sure virtually no one sees it. That's what they do to me. It's like shadow banning, they call it. And she said that if something is awful but lawful, you'll find it very difficult to find it on X. And that's exactly what's unfolded. But now this new list of conditions and regulations for X imposed from January takes it onto a whole new level. And what he's been doing, as I pointed out in some of my recent books, is when a country seeks to censor in that country, or in terms of the EU, many countries, what is posted on X, he will very loudly make a big song and dance about it, a big fuss about it. Oh, no, Brazil, Australia, so on. Oh, no, we're not having this. We're not going to bow to this censorship. No. And then quietly, when it's all died down, he gives them everything they demand, everything. And he's now doing the same with the EU and with Britain. But he does, he bows quietly while resisting loudly until he bows. And people might find this hard to believe, but look at the figures and you'll see it's true. X, since it was taken over by Musk, has taken down far, far more material on the demands of governments than even the previous Twitter did, and that was massively controlled. And of course, censorship was kind of rampant. But more's taken down under Musk than was taken down before, but quietly.
But David, you must say they played this card, like the Trump conservative card. They played it so well, because like after COVID, you had like this whole collective of people who were talking about the digital dystopia, about all the things that we learned during the COVID era, and you were talking about decades earlier already. And that collective of people, they saw everything, and then Trump came, and then Musk came, and then Carlson, and now all the people surrounding those guys. And then all of the sudden, they are the heroes. Everyone is talking only positive things about them. Then they come into power and they do exactly the stuff that the collective was opposing the years during the COVID era. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, but it's an extreme version, because it's so obvious and blatant, of how politics works. Mm. You see, you have an election campaign, and the parties look at their natural constituency, who's the areas of society that are most likely to vote for them. And ironically, those that vote for a particular party by reflex action, my father always voted this way, I vote this way, my granddad voted this way, we always vote this way, that kind of mentality, they get sod all, because they're taken for granted. Oh yeah, they'll vote for us anyway, we don't have to give them anything. And then you then look at, okay, so what's that area of society that is kind of movable, that could vote for us or could vote for the opposition? Okay, so we'll promise them the bloody world, right? And we'll tell them what they want to hear. So they vote for you, and you get in. And then there's no contract. There's no contract that involves you doing what you said you'd do or not doing what you said you wouldn't do. And so you do what you planned to do all along. This has happened in Britain with Keir Starmer, absolutely never mentioned in the election campaign, this fundamental destruction of freedom through the jailing of people over tweets and a digital ID, which he wants to bring in the next year. And Trump is just, as you rightly say, is so unbelievably blatant. He's doing things that this so-called MAGA base constituency have been railing against all these years. And yet now, chunks of them are trying to justify what they railed against before. Alex Jones is a classic, but there are others. So because you don't have a contract, there's nothing. It means that they can tell you whatever they think you want to hear during an election campaign while keeping quiet about what the real game is. And then they do as they like when they get in. And then, okay, you go, oh, God, made a mistake. Party A has not done what they said they'd do. How do we get rid of them? Well, you've got to wait till the next election for a start, but then you can vote for Party B. That will get them out. Oh, we'll do that then. And then the same thing unfolds, exactly the same. So, how do we get rid of Party B? Well, you have to vote again for Party A, mate. And so it goes on and on and on. And I'll give you a little bit of background here to current events, events since Trump came to power. Because in the 1930s, there was a guy called Joshua Alderman in Canada. And he was a massive proponent and central figure in something called technocracy Inc. And it was in Canada and it was in the United States. In fact, it seems to have started in Columbia University in the States. And the idea of a technocracy is that you, first of all, break the world into sections, and that you bring an end to elected politicians, and you only have appointed people to run the country. Business people, bureaucrats, no elections, all gone. And he produced a map in the 1930s with Technocracy Inc. before going off after the Second World War to apartheid South Africa, because he agreed with apartheid. Nice man, Joshua Alderman. Guess who he was if you've not come across him? He was Elon Musk's grandfather. Elon Musk was born in South Africa when, after the move. And what was this map? Right. Well, at the bottom of the map of the technocracy for North America, the controlled area of that technocracy, was Venezuela. Next to it was Colombia. Above that was Panama, going into Mexico, going into the United States, going into Canada, and the top country in the technocracy was Greenland, 1930s. Now, Trump classically did not mention during his election campaign that he wanted Canada to be the 51st state. He didn't mention that he wanted to take control of Greenland. He certainly didn't say that he was going to send the boys, the military naval boys, down off the coast of Venezuela, and or that he would pick a fight with Colombia, which he has. He never said that he wanted to take control of Panama, not least through the Panama Canal. Never mentioned that he wanted to send troops into Mexico. And certainly didn't mention he wanted to send American troops into American cities. But you know, if you look through history and you look through the sequence, you can start to see why things happen now. And if you don't do the research to see the sequence, then it's bewildering to you. And what we're looking at is the constant move to a world government, ultimately, a world government that would be appointed, not elected. If you look around the world, not least during COVID, and certainly since, if you look at the cabinets of Trump and Keir Starmer, I'm sure the cabinet in the Netherlands, you'll see absolute morons. You look at people that were, calling the shots, at least officially and politically, during COVID, complete bloody morons. And the idea is to, the British cabinet is shocking. If there's a brain cell, well, that's all there is. I don't know who's got it today, but it won't be David Lammy. He's never got it. The Justice Secretary wants to bring an end to jury trials. But the plan is to make people so disillusioned with the ineptitude and corruption of elected politicians that they become open to this appointed cabinet. I mean, you in the Netherlands had this appointed prime minister under Geert Wilders' party, didn't you? This former, head of Dutch intelligence.
Yes, he is.
And we have a situation in Britain which is, like I say, utterly shocking. And the party that is most likely currently to take over from Keir Starmer's Labour Party, if there was an election, is the Reform Party of Nigel Farage. that party has already said that if it gets into power, up to half the cabinet will be appointed, not elected people. So you can see the way it's moving. And so the idea is to have a world government, appointed, not elected, technocracy, and then the world broken up into basically regions like the technocracy of the north of South America up to Greenland, as I pointed out. And that this centralized control system globally ultimately will be run by artificial intelligence and a digital control system. Because it's not just about a digital ID, it's about a digital currency. And to just give you an idea of how the sleight of hand works, around the world, you've got these central bank digital currencies coming in. In the EU, Russia already has a digital ruble because it's part of this whole system as well. You have the digital currencies being brought in around the world. And in America, he's got the MAGA problem, in that the MAGA, having become aware of the digital agenda, says they're fundamentally against a central bank digital currency. So Trump does a executive order, swish of the pen, law of the land, after he becomes president the second time, saying America will never have a central bank digital currency, because he has to play to his MAGA base to an extent. But then he starts bringing in stable coins, which are a digital currency. And his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, one of his handlers actually, is absolute central to the stable coin market. And he is also talking about bringing in the whole Bitcoin cyber coin system. Been talking about that this week. Well, that's a digital currency, Mr. Trump. The same as the one you say you won't have in America. And the idea of and the significance of central bank digital currencies and stable coins is that they are programmable. So they can program digital money so it can only be spent in designated areas. So if they want to bring in this whole concept, as the World Economic Forum talks about, of a 15-minute city where you can only operate within 15 minutes walk or cycle ride from your home, and everything they say will be provided within that arena, and there'll be number plate cameras so you can't leave. Not that you'll have a car by then anyway, if we allow this to happen. But what better way of keeping you limited to that area than having a digital currency that's programmed only to work in that area? Also, the currency can be programmed to dictate what you can and cannot buy. You try buying my books in this situation, it won't be easy. So the whole system is closing in on freedom in a way that, it's like people who aren't paying attention it will dawn on them one day just how little they can suddenly do that they could do before. I mean, you look at the phones. They're now bringing in supermarkets that you have to have a QR code to get in. I don't use a mobile phone, so I'm struggling for a start. They also have the supermarkets now with where the food and what have you is behind closed doors, and that they'll only open if you are carrying the right tech, basically. And so if you are refusing to have a mobile phone or you are challenging the system, well, it's just click enter, and you won't be able to enter a supermarket. You'll be excluded. And it's exactly the same system, because I've been saying this for years in the books. The Chinese system, the so-called social credit system, was incubated specifically by this cult, which has no borders, after the Mao Zedong revolution. He was a cult frontman, and the idea was to have a vast country whereby you would incubate a system, ultimately technological, that would be the blueprint for what would then be played out across the world. So while the so-called Western countries were having to pay until COVID lip service to freedom and democracy, they could only move to this direction at a certain pace. But in China, where you had complete control by the government, dictatorship, they could move as fast as they bloody wanted, and they did, which is why you have millions of cameras in the Chinese cities. It's why you have this social credit system whereby you get credits for behaving as the government wants. You have credits taken away if you behave as they don't want. And then if you lose enough credits, you're excluded from mainstream society. You can't go on a train, you can't go on a plane, and so on. And this is the idea. The whole mandatory vaccine and vaccine passports they tried to bring in is absolutely on the same in the same mold. So where did COVID come from? It didn't, but they say it did. China. And what has happened to the world, not least the Western world, since COVID? It's become more and more and more like China. And that's the Chinese system, incubated and shown to work, that is being played out across the world. There are no borders. You know, one of the things that they're doing to push AI is they've turned it into a sporting event. Mm-hmm. So you have Trump in America and these AI oligarchs, billionaire oligarchs from Silicon Valley, saying, we can't let China win the AI race. We've got to win the AI race. We've got to dominate AI and all that stuff. At the same time, there are about 46,000 papers jointly written about AI between American and Chinese scientists. So it's not something to win. It's you give the impression, oh, we've got to win, and the Chinese will say we've got to win. And what's the outcome? The outcome is global AI dystopia, which is what the idea has been all along. It's all a psychological game. It's all controlling the perception. And we've got to get bloody streetwise, bloody quick. Otherwise, they'll roll us over.
Is China like the testing ground for all of this?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've seen documentaries, you can see them on the internet, where in China, they can find people in minutes. Facial recognition is everywhere. You know, in London, you've got the mayor of London, a guy called Sadiq Khan. He's brought in a series of laws to do with car types you can use and all these other restrictions on vehicles. And to police it, there are number plate cameras all over London. Started off in the middle and then went to Greater London, which is where it is now. And if you've got the wrong type of car and you drive it past one of these number plate cameras, you have to pay, I think it's £12.50 a day. And so if you live in London, every time you move your car, it's £12.50. Well, count that every time you move your car. And what they want is people not to have vehicles. That's the whole idea. It's not about moving to electric vehicles. It's about getting the vast majority of people out of vehicles altogether and into these restricted areas. But these number plate cameras, while they are being put up with the excuse of policing these vehicle restrictions, they're actually being put up to ultimately police the restricted areas that people are allowed to live in. So, and this is why there's this big war on movement, this war on travel that's increasing all the time. So this is what we're facing. And, you know, if this was sometime over the rainbow, then we might be able to say, okay, well, we can take a breath and have a look at this. But Ray Kurzweil was talking about 2030. We're now entering 2026. And so the pace of this is designed to get faster and faster and faster. And thus the excuses to do it, while not putting the dots together to see why it's all being done, will also get faster and faster. You know, we live in interesting times, to say the least, and we've really got to get streetwise, because if we don't, by the time we do, because we'll be experiencing it, it will be too late.
So is the biggest thing we should talk about, we should look at, we should investigate, is the whole digital AI agenda, what's going on at the moment?
Well, yes, because that is meant to take over human psychology and human perception. That's been the goal all along. They've had to manipulate information up to this point to install the perceptions they want, censorship, etc. But they want the human perception to come direct. And what's being created, and of course Elon Musk is fundamentally involved in this, along with Jeff Bezos, is a hive mind. They want to create a global electromagnetic field, technologically generated, through which information can be broadcast in the form of frequency. I mean, this is how information is broadcast, frequency. Frequency carries information. But the vehicle through which those frequencies pass is designed to be electromagnetic. It's already being created. So you have these towers all over the towns and cities, 5G towers and 4G before, with 6G coming along very fast. And 6G is a completely different level of all this. 5G was a completely different level, but 6G is even greater. And they're pounding out this electromagnetic field from these towers. But if you're going to create a global field, then you can't just do it with towers. You have to have low orbit satellites. And so over recent years, thousands and thousands, it's going to be tens of thousands and more of low orbit satellites are being put up there, primarily by SpaceX and Elon Musk. Elon Musk, just the front man. And this very week, a guy called Isaacson was appointed head of NASA, and NASA and SpaceX are basically the same entity. And Isaacson is a close associate of Musk. And the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, which gives permission for these satellites, is headed by another close associate of Musk, who was appointed by Trump, just as Isaacson has just been appointed by Trump at NASA. So all the people to impose this are being put into place. And the idea is you create this electromagnetic field, and then you broadcast the frequencies, the hive mind frequencies, human perception, through these through this field. Now, in the roadmap, I quote a Chinese whistleblower, actually, who was speaking a few years ago now, saying that the Chinese have developed a technology in which, through electromagnetic fields, they're dictating human perception. I mean, controlling it. But even more sophisticated than that is if you have a specific receiver in the body and in the brain to receive this hive mind communication. And that's the COVID fake vaccine. That's why one of the major reasons, in fact, the major reason probably, that the COVID fake vaccine was used, that the COVID hoax was used to impose the COVID fake vaccine. And this is why, and I've been in touch with a number of these scientists around the world, that they're seeing, those that have the guts and fortitude to investigate it, they're seeing through electron microscopes, etc., these self-replicating nano systems being formed in the blood, being formed in a way where they appear to have some form of consciousness. They've been programmed to do it. That's the reality. And one of the things that they have found wouldn't have necessarily been in every one of these fake vaccines, but they're moving this same vaccine system. I say fake vaccine because these did not conform to the definition of a vaccine before. They're more like genetic manipulators, not what we would call vaccines. And the idea is that these systems interact as receivers of this this hive mind electromagnetic frequency phenomenon. And one of the things that they found, like I say, not necessarily in every one, but because they're now putting this stuff out there in various ways, they'll get the plan is to get everyone eventually, is something called graphene oxide. Now, graphene oxide is a relatively new substance. It has phenomenally advanced properties. And two of them are that if you have an electromagnetic field or you come into contact with an electromagnetic field, graphene oxide in the body will amplify the effect. So if you come in connection with this hive mind, it will be amplified in its impact by graphene oxide in the body. And the other thing that it does, another property it has, is that it's a superconductor of electricity. And what they're finding, these real scientists who are investigating this, is it's getting in the brain. Now, through what they call the blood-brain barrier. And of course, how does the brain process information? Electrically. Communicates with the body electrically. The body communicates with the brain electrically. It processes information and perception electrically. If you start getting graphene oxide into the brain, it starts to rewire the way the brain processes information, perception. And so you have this phenomenon, which I've heard constantly since the COVID fake vaccine was rolled out, that a lot of people who have had the vaccine have changed their personality. They're distant. They're not quite here anymore. They're not the person they were, as people, observers will say. And that's not surprising when you realize what's going on. And the idea is, and I've been saying this for decades, is to change the body, and now more and more people are starting to see it, is to change the body from a biological state to a much more synthetic state. This is why synthetic biology, or synbio, as they call it, is one of the biggest expanding scientific disciplines, because they are seeking to change the nature of the human body to a more synthetic state, because basically the human body is being changed into little more than a terminal on the hive mind internet. And one of the impacts appears to be, and like I say, it's happening already, is that people become more docile. They become less willing to put their heads above the parapet and take this system on. They become much more subordinate in their mentality. So those that aren't doing that have a massive responsibility, that's for sure.
It seems like everything is really coming together in this period of time, maybe the next even 2 or 3 years, like, because everything you described, you are painting like a really good picture here, because all the different angles and all the different things that we know about are really coming together in the next couple of years, so it seems. And so this time is quite crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, when they say 2030, I don't think they're kidding. I mean, obviously, not everything will be in by then, but they want a situation where it's basically irreversible by then. One of the things in the 2026 that we're going to see is the advancement of censorship. And also, if we're talking about 2026, which I think is a really pivotal year. If we're still not challenging this effectively by the end of 2026, then we are going to be in some serious trouble. One of the things I think is going to be a feature also of 2026, we'll see, is the non-human element of all this. Because when I'm talking about, and I go into this in the roadmap extensively, I'm talking about ultimately this human level, this global cult network, is answering to a non-human force in this astral dimension, which is very close to this one comparatively, but outside of visible light, which is why we can't see it. And I saw the other day a trailer, a very early trailer actually, for a Spielberg film coming out in the summer called Disclosure Day. And I tell you what's kind of interesting, well, interesting to me anyway. All the way through since basically the 50s onwards, people have been talking about, quote, aliens. But what they've been describing them as is a quote, physical alien, like aliens within our dimension of reality. And I'm not saying they don't exist, but the real point of control is coming from this astral dimension. They are interdimensional entities, not one-dimensional entities. They can move in and out of this dimension. So when people say, I saw this UFO and it appeared out of nowhere, and then it just disappeared into nowhere, or they say they saw an entity at the end of the bed that just appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared into nowhere. From the perspective of normal, people just laugh and say that's ridiculous, that's not possible. That's perfectly explainable. What they do is they come out of the astral, they enter visible light, and to the observer, limited to visible light, they've appeared out of nowhere. When they increase the frequency back into the astral level, they appear to disappear into nowhere. But they haven't disappeared at all. They've just moved out of this limited band of frequency we call visible light. And so what's interesting, as I was saying, is suddenly, and I saw this in the trailer, they're not just, they've stopped really talking just about physical aliens now. They've started talking about interdimensional aliens, right? And some of these people on Capitol Hill, these so-called UFO whistleblowers from within the military, who are talking about what they saw and what they gleaned, they're talking about interdimensional entities. I quote in the roadmap a U.S. military project, which was declassified by the CIA a few years ago, called the Gateway Project. And this was based on a man called Robert Monroe, who created the Monroe Institute. And he was a media executive, but he had this ability, developed this ability to project his consciousness into this astral dimension. And he wrote a number of books about it. And so they had this US military psychological type project called Gateway, where they got other people with this ability in, as well as Robert Monroe. And they studied what they experienced when they projected their consciousness into this astral dimension. And, they experienced so many reptilian entities in this astral dimension that this US military project gave them a collective name of the alligators. And I've been saying all these years since the 1990s that these entities are interdimensional. They, far from always, but a dominant force seems to be reptilian. And they operate in the astral dimension. And that's what these people experience. And so suddenly we're starting to hear in officialdom and mainstream this talk of interdimensional entities. Well, that's exactly what I've been saying all these years. And we have to be careful with anything to do with UFOs and so-called aliens, because there is a potential a project called Blue Beam, which goes back decades, exposed by a Canadian journalist called Serge Monast, that there was a plan, and I think it's in the background, to stage a fake alien invasion that would bring together a unification of governments, global governments, to meet the threat, the alien threat. And it would be ironic because in the end, it's a non-human force that's manipulating human society. But to twist it and play it in another way would certainly allow them to justify the centralization of power globally. Because if you have a war, and a country has a war, you have a war cabinet that makes the decisions outside of the usual parliamentary process. Well, if you could have a external threat to the planet, as it was projected and sold, then you would justify a global war cabinet that would be making decisions for the world.
That's basically COVID all over again, right? With WHO, the centralized power outside all of the governments, who had to face on the global threat of a virus in this case.
Yeah, it's the same principle. It's a principle. I coined the phrase in the 1990s: problem, reaction, solution. You create a problem. But you make sure someone else is blamed for it, not you. You then get the reaction from the public of something must be done, a reaction of fear, of outrage, whatever the problem is. And then you openly offer the solutions to the problems you've created. I mean, if you look at this horror in Bondi Beach in the last week, well, obviously that's a problem. And the reaction was understandable outrage. Well, what's the solution they're all putting forward? More and more censorship and deletion of the ability to have an opinion about Israel. That's a classic problem, reaction, solution. 9/11 was a classic problem, reaction, solution. Problem, the 9/11 attacks, which were not done by 19 Arab hijackers. I've written a very thick book called The Trigger, that exposes all that. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the official story. And as a result of that, the solution was all those wars in the Middle East, endlessly, year after year, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, etc. And these things are happening all the time. And so if you want to centralize power globally and impose the same policy globally, you need a global problem that you can offer a global solution for. And so what's human-caused climate change? It's a global problem, allegedly, and so you have you pursue a global solution. And, if you investigate human-caused climate change, I mean, that is just another fantasy story made to justify the collective global action. But you see, problem, reaction, solution, there's another version of it that I've dubbed no problem, reaction, solution, where you don't need a real problem. You just need the perception of one. It doesn't have to be a real problem, but as long as the public think it is, then you can justify your solution. And no problem, reaction, solutions are happening all the time. It happened during COVID. It happened happening now during human-caused climate change. These are all no problem, reaction, solutions. But you get a real problem, it's even more potent because people see in their experience what happened and get, furious or fearful, and then it's a doddle to offer the solution.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's where Project Bluebeams comes in as well, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And the thing is about the solutions. Whenever there is an event, whether real or otherwise, always look at what the solution is, because that'll tell you what was behind the event, really behind it. And if it is, and it virtually entirely is, deletion of more freedom and the imposition of more censorship, then it's time to ask massive questions about who was really behind the problem.
So coming into 2026, yeah, because if you describe all of this, it's a lot, and a lot is happening at the same time, and it feels like it's all coming together, and it's closing in fast. Like, what can we expect the coming year, and maybe even more importantly, so is what can we do? What must we do?
Well, you know, people say about me, who've not read my books, by the way, you never give solutions. Well, first of all, knowing the problem is part of the solution, but I do. But, you know, people are so often don't want to hear the solutions because it involves them. They want someone else to do it for them. It's not going to happen. If you want a savior, don't look to Trump. Find yourself a mirror. Because 8 billion people cannot be controlled by a relative handful. Impossible. If those 8 billion or vast tracts of them will not cooperate with the few. Impossible. You know, when Rutte was Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and, you know, the guy that followed him and whoever is now, you know, I mean, they come out of their office making a statement and they say, this is what we've decided is going to happen. Okay. Well, what if enough people in the Netherlands, this applies to every country, say, we're not doing that? No, mate. We're not doing that. We're not acquiescing to what you demand. We are not obeying what you tell us to do. Where's the power? There is none. Because the real massive penny drop is authority has no power. The only power it has is the acquiescence of the population. In other words, the population gives its power to authority in the name of acquiescence, in the form of acquiescence. And, you know, fascism, communism, tyranny is never imposed by fascists, communists, and tyrants, because there's never enough of them. They come in because the population acquiesce to fascism, communism, and tyranny. We are in control. If only people realized what the situation has been all along, all the way through known human history, while the few have controlled the many, the same dynamic has been sitting there waiting, that the power is with us. But it's only with us collectively if we put down the fault lines of division, most of them irrelevant, and realize that we're all in the gun sights of the same force. You see, people say, "Oh, you know, you're talking about non-human entities, and oh my goodness, that's fearful and disempowering." Hold on a minute. What do you mean disempowering? That non-human force is imposing its will on the population through this global cult, which imposes the will of that force through the political structures in the different countries. And the political structures in the different countries rely on imposing that on the acquiescence of the population of those countries. In other words, the whole edifice of control going into another dimension, the whole edifice of control is founded on human acquiescence to authority. And if we cease to do so, all that hierarchy into another dimension has its power deleted because we won't cooperate. And this is why it was so important. I was talking at the start of this chat about the way they systematically break up perception into different groups of rigid, unquestioning beliefs, religious, scientific, political, cultural, that can then be played off against each other to create the very disunity that is necessary to bring about human control. We could bring this down tonight, tomorrow, if we put down the fault lines of division, put down the limitations of rigid, unquestioning belief, and realize that we together are unstoppable and uncontrollable. And what they want, and this is why this period is so crucial, is to connect the human brain, mind, body to artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence would never again question authority or come to the conclusion that, hold on, the power they have is only the power we've given them. Those thoughts will not manifest in an AI-controlled mind. That's why we are looking over the precipice now of total human control. That would not generate resistance because it would never think of it. You know, we've really got to get our asses in gear fast, because if we do, then it's over. If we don't, then it's dystopia, and even more so for our kids and grandkids.
It's funny how people feel so powerless, and when you say all of this, like the whole big agenda and everything, what's going on, and you realize that you're one of the guys, one of the people who resisted all of that shit until now, that makes you such a powerful being to begin with, eh? So you have so much more power than you think. You're not powerless, you're already super powerful. I mean, the fact that you're standing here today and not complying with all that shit, that says a lot about how powerful you are, right?
People can be as powerful as they choose to be, or as weak as they choose to be. It is just a choice. It's just a perception. And, you know, self-identity is phenomenally important. It's a basic foundation importance to human control. If you perceive yourself, if you self-identify as a human, that's who you are, then you are self-identifying with limitation. You are self-identifying with it's not possible. Because when you look around the so-called material world, everything is so dense and so limited, apparently, in our perception of it's really solid, when it isn't, that you think in terms of limitation. When you believe that you're subject to some judgmental God judging you on one life on earth, you are in a state of subordination, weakness. I've got to bend the knee to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
when you realize that what you really are is a state of formless, infinite awareness, you are a state of being aware, then there are no limitations except that which you perceive them to be. And the indoctrination of the sense of limitation is the foundation control system of the simulation. They want you to believe that you are limited. You are not. You are limitless. But if you perceive yourself to be limited, you will be limited. What you believe, you perceive. What you perceive, you will experience. If you perceive you are a state of infinite awareness, having a brief human experience, and you have the power, not of the universe is the simulation, the power of infinity. And when you realize that in the end, consciousness is indestructible, eternal, then what is there to fear? What is there to fear? Some non-human entities, bunch of prats. They can't be anything else but a bunch of prats, given what they're trying to do. And basically, there's a whole area to go into, and doing the roadmap of why this simulation was created to start with. And it's the fact that they're feeding off us. They're feeding off our energy. They're feeding off our low vibrational energy. They're feeding off the energy we give off in the form of frequency when we are in states of fear and depression and anxiety and resentment and regret and hatred, conflict, war. We give off frequencies, as well known in mainstream science. We give off frequencies when we're in those emotional states and mental states. They're feeding off it. When we're in states of joy and happiness and peace and appreciation, they are high frequency states. They don't want them. They want the low frequency states because that matches the state they're in. So they have no interest at all in this being a world, a reality of love, of peace, of harmony. They've no interest in that. You don't feed them. All these other low vibrational emotions all around this base emotion of fear is what feeds them. And that's why the world is as it is. But it doesn't have to be. We can change it anytime we want. It's just a choice. Choice right now between fear and love, actually, as the great Bill Hicks, American comedian, once said. And crucially, we put down the fault lines of division. It doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. We're living in an infinite reality of all potential and all possibility. Why would you agree on everything? But if we agree on the fact that there's a force that's targeting all of us, and that together we can bring that force to an end overnight, then maybe it would be a good idea to put the fault lines down and concentrate on that rather than what divides us. Because the reasons for division are being given to us by the minute, never mind the hour, for that reason.
So it's a good idea for 2026, yeah? Try to overcome those differences and unite in a way, right, isn't it?
Yeah, but also, you've got Russian troops fighting Ukraine troops. You got Ukraine troops fighting Russian troops. Why? Well, because a small hierarchy in Russia and a small hierarchy in Ukraine, controlled from America and Europe, tells them to. What's all that about? Okay, do you want to fight them? Well, yeah, I do. Because why? Well, they told me to. They're the enemy. Oh, really? Have you ever sat around a table with them, had a chat, and found how much you have in common? Well, no. But if you did, you wouldn't want to fight them. You're fighting them and they're fighting you because a tiny hierarchy is telling you both to fight each other. So what's what wars are? Oh, Trump, oh, yeah, we're going to invade Venezuela. We're going to bomb Iran. Oh, really? Are you doing it, Donald? Or are you sipping coffee in the White House while others are sent to do it? Same with all of them. Tony Blair, look at the unbelievable numbers of people that died in Iraq. Tony Blair's ever heard a gun fired in anger? Boy George Bush? No. Let us tell the young people of their country to go and do it. Now we're talking about, oh, yeah, we're going to get ready for war with Russia. You can stick it up your arse, mate. We're not cooperating with you psychopaths. No more. And if we do, the power was with us all along. Yes, exactly. Come on, people. Enough of it. Enough of subordination to someone else's will. Live your own life. Make your own decisions. I don't care if your parents are telling you what to do or your boss is telling you what to do or your prime minister. You decide what you do. And then you'll realize you're not an insignificant little unit. You are of immense power and you can create your own reality. They're just kidding us that our reality comes from obeying them. It's not true. It never was.
David, thank you very much, man. Keep going,
Thank you
mate.
very much.
Keep going. Please keep going. And thank you for this.
Oh, kidding. I've just started.
We'll keep following you, mate.
See ya.
Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and for listening. Please share this podcast as much as possible because I think it's really important for people to hear this. And David's message is always so powerful. So please share it. Dave and I will keep going our conversation for a little while. And you can check that out on the streaming platform of That's the Spirit. So that's spirit.nu. Go check it out. You can see this conversation and way more conversations and documentaries and films and lots of stuff that you really, really like. I'm quite sure of it. Thank you for now. Hopefully see you soon. Ciao.
There are sensors all around the world picking up changes in the Earth's electromagnetic field. And when 9/11 happened and people around the world were beginning to see what had happened, there was this enormous spike in the electromagnetic field of the Earth. And that was the human emotional reaction globally to what they were realizing had happened. So this loosh is real, and they're feeding off it. There's reasons they need to feed off it that I talk about in the books, but that's what they're doing. And so they have no interest in a world of harmony and love and peace. They want a world of disharmony, fear, conflict, war. And that's why throughout human history, we've had so many of them. And so the idea of the human AI fusion is to so control perception through AI that they have louche on tap, because they can generate an emotional reaction which produces a energetic consequence which they feed off. It's understanding the louche connection to all this is to understand why the world is as it is. And another major reason why they want AI human fusion to control perception.